On the U.S.-Mexico border, agents are encountering a record number of migrants, more than 10,000 a day. In Eagle Pass, Texas, thousands are waiting to be processed. Border officials shut down 2 freight rail crossings there over the weekend after detecting a surge of migrants being smuggled by train. And yesterday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent a state plane carrying more than 120 recent immigrants to Chicago, where leaders are struggling to provide services to new arrivals. Lisa Desjardins has more on the forces overwhelming the country's immigration system and possible solutions on the table in our nation's capital.
To underscore just how seriously national leaders view the latest surge at the border, President Biden spoke to Mexico's president today about the urgent need for more enforcement. And Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas will head to Mexico in the coming days. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson is also urging the president to take executive actions to stem the tide of migration, even as senators continue negotiations on a broader deal to fix an immigration system seen by many as broken or at least at its limits. To lay out how that system works and does not work, I'm joined by Doris Meisner of the Migration Policy Institute. She is a former commissioner of the Immigration and Naturalization Service. And Ruth Wasem, a senior fellow at Cleveland State University and a longtime congressional researcher on immigration. Doris, I want to start first of all with explaining the push factor. How do you see this moment right now in world migration?
We're in a new global era. This is happening all over the world, that we are seeing large new flows of migrants. And it's a combination of things. It's a combination of the post-pandemic, when most countries and many countries of the world have not come back as quickly as we have in the United States. It's failed states, it's corruption and violence, it is climate issues, and it is persecution and discrimination.
Ruth, so we've established that this is a global historic moment in migration, but help us understand the pressures and idiosyncrasies of this hemisphere, why the influx, especially at the United States.
Well, where we're in a unique situation is that there are about 108 million displaced people around the world. Most of the focus of the international organizations like UNHCR are on war zones, and they're in Africa, the Middle East, in Asia. This hemisphere hasn't gotten the same attention from a lot of the international organizations, and arguably they might not have thought the situation was as severe as these other parts of the world. But we are now seeing the same phenomena as Doris has just discussed, happening here that's happening around the world. And so we are feeling the same pressures, but it hasn't gotten the same attention beyond the United States about the pressures in this hemisphere.
Doris, the way we see this manifesting right now at the border with these surging numbers, these migrants, talking especially about those that are crossing at illegal points of entry, they're using the asylum system. Can you talk about how the asylum system was designed for individuals? Can it handle kind of a dysfunctional part of it, this sort of group?
Well, it's certainly the case for the United States and other countries around the world that have had asylum systems really that flow from the post-World War II period. But the asylum systems were never set up to manage and be responsive to huge humanitarian crises. So we have an asylum system that has worked pretty effectively until about the mid-2010s. And at that time, across the southwest border, which had not been a source of asylum seekers until just 10, 15 years ago, we began to see people from this hemisphere, and they were seeking asylum because of the things that we've been talking about, but also because there aren't any other ways to access the United States for people who are looking for work in the country. So these are mixed flows. They are people that have some family members in the United States, are looking for jobs in the United States. Some of them are eligible for asylum. Most of them are not. But asylum is the only way actually to get access to the U.S. immigration system because our laws are so out of date.
And so many legal pathways have closed. Ruth, this has led to this huge backlog that we saw for asylum seekers already in this country. And I want to look at some statistics. This comes from Syracuse University and the data that they've gathered. When you talk about asylum right now, current cases, not including the surge right now, current cases, more than 1 million people in the backlog for the asylum system waiting to be processed and get their day in court. The average time for them waiting for a hearing, almost 4 years. And that number is actually higher in many other states. This is a big discussion in Congress. Can the current system ever handle this amount of people?
Well, yes. One of the things that you have to bear in mind is that when we ratcheted up border security, which we've done over the last 25 years, really, even before 9/11, we didn't do commensurate funding for the related portions of implementing that kind of policy. We didn't do commensurate spending for the asylum courts, for the immigration judges, for the other kinds of processing centers that are part and parcel of a more extensive border control strategy. So I think that if we fully funded these other components of the judges, of asylum, of the processing centers, we would be better situated to process these asylum claims.
What I hear is that we've gotten better at apprehension, but at the same time, our system just is not handling this situation. There are conversations in other countries, the EU, which is talking about having easier ways to deport people that they feel do not qualify for asylum. Just in the last minute or so we have left, a big challenge to both of you. What is the conversation you think we should be having? Let me start with you, Ruth.
Well, I think we need to take a look at whether or not we need additional pathways. There are a lot of individuals who probably meet the credible fear threshold, and I know we don't have time to discuss what that means, but they may not necessarily be refugees under the Cold War definition of a refugee. So taking a more complete look at the pathways for someone to come into the United States, because we know immigration is a net good. That needs to be done. But I also, in this last moment, want to say the onus is on Congress. That's where the power resides. The executive branch can only work on the margins. Congress sets these laws and makes these decisions.
Let me pick up on that, because to me, the large question is, how does immigration fit in America's future? We are a country that is aging. We are a country that has been the technology leader around the world. All of those things, and innovation is going to be our competitive advantage. Immigration is a critical element of America's success. We need to treat it as an asset, and we need to have a system that is actually aligned with our economic needs as well as our humanitarian traditions going into the future. And we're not having that conversation.
Dorothy Meisner and Ruth Wasem, two of our great immigration experts. We have started a conversation here, and we thank you.
Thank you for having me.